For the latest coronavirus-related information from our Lincoln University Cooperative Extension and Research COVID-19 Response Team, please visit http://bit.ly/LUCERCOVID19 or call the response team toll-free at 1-888-986-2990.
This is Eleazar Gonzalez again. Our presenter is Dr. Nadia Navarrete Tindal, and she is going to take the screen right now.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being with us again. Welcome to our Session 5 of the Gardening Entrepreneurship Webinar Series. And today, I hope that you like my presentation. It's going to be about 30 minutes. And then when we're done, we're going to have our questions as usual. So I just want to show you my contact information. If you don't have it, I know it's a little long. But please be sure to contact me if you have any questions. I offer native plants to everyone, and we have a few vegetables. And if you need them, let us know. And also, I have a Facebook page that is mainly about native plants. So the outline for today's presentation is going to be about creating your raised bed step by step, using some of the recent projects that Dr. Gonzalez has been helping to establish. We have and then we'll talk about growing vegetables in containers and how to manage your own bed, your gardening bed, companion planting, and also we'll talk at the end about 12 popular vegetables and some of the planting requirements. And finally, we'll just show you some of the gardening tools. Probably you have your own favorites, but we'll just talk about ideas. And so the first slide is about preparing the site for your garden bed. For those of you who have joined us since the beginning, during webinar 1, Amy Bax talked about finding your gardening spot. And on webinars 2, Dr. Jurizo talked about understanding your soil. So if you haven't joined us before, please be sure you do it, so you know that's the first steps to get you started. Talk to Dr. Eleazar about getting the links. So to get you prepared for your garden, you need to measure and mark the area. Here is Dr. Gonzalez with Packy's husband. And there we have a soil. The next one is soil preparation. Once you have decided on your site, if you have access to a tiller, in this case it's from Dr. Gonzalez and us, it is the fastest method of preparation. Okay. So we'll continue with soil preparation. If you have access to a tiller, as I was saying, it is the fastest method of preparation. But there are other methods. For example, if you have plenty of time and you don't have access to a tiller, you can use whatever you want to kill your grass. You can cover an area with cardboard, with black plastic or wood, just to kill the grass. This is a project that I had at a conservation area with just using some old wood, pressed wood. And there is another method that is called double digging, but it's labor intensive and we won't mention it today. So continuing with tilling, you can see what the tiller is doing. It would take maybe no more than 30 minutes to get the area prepared, like maybe an area that is 10 by 10. But it depends on the soil depending on the vegetation that you have growing. This particular situation was, it only has grass. So it was kind of easy. It's easy for me to say because it was Dr. Gonzalez using the tiller, but it's hard work too. So after 2 or 3 times that you pass the tiller, then check the soil. See if it's loose. In this case, you can almost see that it's pretty loose. So now it's time to clean roots and other woody or other plant materials. Rake the soil to clean the materials, level the soil, and then add your frame. Here again, we're here with Paki, where he's planting. It was a family project, so husband and son were helping. And here we're just planting the first tomato in their garden with Paki. In another case, we have Veronica Perez Picasso with her and her husband. They had the area very wet due to the continuous rain events that we had. So the tiller didn't work that way in that place. So if you can almost see how muddy the area was. So what they did is that they bought soil with compost. It was they added a cubic yard, and they built, instructed by Dr. Gonzalez, they had built a 4 feet by 10 feet raised bed with wood. Now the full bed with soil. And their final project was tomatoes. So they added stakes to the tomato after planting tomatoes. And you can see this is an example of a companion crops. They planted marigolds to deter nematodes and other insects to come to the garden. And they also added some herbs. So later on, this bed is gonna be full. They also added mulch. That's a way to control weeds and even around the bed. A similar raised bed was prepared in another location using existing soil. In this case, they did not add soil. They just used the soil from the garden. So those are some examples of raised bed. There's so many examples that you can find in the web, and I'll give you some resources at the end for you to check. So another way to grow vegetables is in containers. This one, it was an old half barrel that we had at home with my husband, and we planted we planted spinach. And is what then later on we planted radishes in between. And another example, you can use like old cattle water tanks. In this case, we have Phyllis Starr from Colombia showing us her potatoes. Her yard is completely established, not only with vegetable gardens, but also with pollinator plants. And she doesn't have much lawn to mow. She uses everything. Here's another view of her garden. This is in the front. This raised bed, that is exactly a raised bed that is put on bricks and rocks. It was built with old barn wood. And in this particular box, she had a complete companion crop situation. Onions, lettuce, squash, tomatoes, herbs, and a couple more that I forgot. But it was just very nice to see that. And she uses every corner. the herbs she likes to grow next to a little porch that she has. In this case, she's showing us cilantro. And then in the other bed, she has, or in the other pot, she has thyme. So what is companion planting? You see that you see the combination of different plants in one, either a garden or in containers. And what companion planting is it's just a growing plant together. The point of that is that they complement or enhance each other. Some of the benefits, they help with pest control. If you put a mint that or marigold that deter insects, that would be their job. Nitrogen fixation could be beans, or even some native plants like partridge pea. They can provide support to the plant. In the case of corn, can be support for other plants. So in general, they help each other. They also help in water conservation. They help to control weeds too. And in general, they help to increase yield and increase diversity. Some of examples would be the combination of corn, squash, and beans that is well known as the Three Sisters. We can grow tomatoes and aromatic herbs like veronica, potato, and ground cherry. That's my combination because I love ground cherries. They're very sweet and they're very resistant to very dry conditions. And we can talk about it at another time. You can combine lettuce and radishes and even grow onions and goatweed, which is a native plant that is a host plant for a butterfly. And I mentioned partridge pea, which is an annual legume. Here's your Three Sisters. Jessica has this planted in the community garden at Lincoln University. You can talk to her and she can probably give you a tour or just let you know where they are so you can come and see it at Lincoln University. This is a common practice in Mexico and Central America, and American Indian nations did it too, but it's now very popular. So in this case, the corn is harvested first, and then they serve as support for the beans, and the squash spreads all over the ground and help control weeds. So you have three plants that help each other. They are not in anybody's way. They are like companions. Another example is just this little pot that I have at home. I'd like to grow wildflowers in pots too. So I had purslane coming on its own. As you can see, it's pretty prolific. But what I do, I harvest it because I love eating purslane. So I let it grow. It helps me protect from other weeds. Purslane can be a weed, but it's edible and it looks pretty. Another combination could be kale. They're in the back. I don't know if you can see it. They're so small. They will grow large. And then we have basil. So that would be a fall pot, maybe in a month. That's another combination. Native plants can also be companion crops to attract pollinators. We talked about pollinators in last week. Again, the webinar 4 will be available if you haven't seen it. If you can see, we have flowers in our yard. This is a shaded garden, but bumblebees, you might not be able to see it, but it's just bumblebees went from purple milkweed to the rose, climbing rose that we have. At Lincoln, on the right picture, We have common milkweed. That is the plant that I have been talking about, that is important for monarch butterflies. And they need a space to grow. They can spread, but I have enough milkweed for everyone participating in these webinars. Another companion crop in a garden could be just fruits like blackberries and elderberry. You cannot see them here, but this is the picture taken at a finca farm that we have at Lincoln University. Finca is the name in Spanish for a small farm. Now, how do we manage the garden? First of all, weeds might be a problem if we don't think ahead. There are several ways to control weeds: by hand, and mechanically, using mulches, and herbicides. With the herbicides, I'm just gonna briefly mention them because I like to only talk about organic herbicides, not chemicals. We are trying not to promote chemical herbicides. There are cases where they can be used, but in our case, in the small gardens, I don't think, my opinion is that it's not necessary. So by hand, of course, your hands is what you're, for me, pulling weeds is almost therapeutic. It calms me. And at the same time, I learn to identify my plants from the plants that I consider weeds. Here we have a volunteer helping us in the finca, and our student, Jeromia Riley, pulling weeds in between the native plants. So the native plants can spread, and in some cases, they can become too much. And mechanically, one way to do it is just to use weed eater. You can use tools too, but in this case, I want to show you today, Dr. Gonzalez was helping to create another garden at Patsy Johnson's place. And first he would eat it, the area, and then use a tiller. If you notice in the patch under the tree is a common milkweed and also a cup plant. Common milkweed is for the monarch butterfly, and cup plant produces edible leaves in the spring. And it's good for pollinators. So what about using mulches and other plant materials? In this case, we use just straw. We're growing some cabbage-like plants. I forgot what they were, but it's what you use to protect from weeds. And then we have tomatoes, in this case with mulch, that Dr. Apple Farmer has in the community garden. And Dr. Gonzalez in his place, he grows carrots with using the dry grass clippings as mulch. So we're talking about weeds. What is a weed? There are many definitions, but I just like to say that it's any plant growing in the wrong place. Even as I mentioned it, native plants can become weedy. But I also like to point out that, and I will show you some of the common weeds that are also edible. So you might find them in your yard already. And for example, plantain is the broadleaf plant that you see in the first picture, is edible. The leaves can be consumed early in the spring. And chickweed is one of my favorites. They are both non-natives, but they are so abundant early in the spring that it just I help by eating them, controlling them. Another plant that is very common that can be considered weedy is lamb's quarters, but it's also a very nutritious plant. All these plants that were introduced by Europeans long time ago. They brought it with them because they use them for food. And now they are established everywhere in the country. And you can see these lamb's quarters. It's all I had. I was growing something else, and then I realized that I better let the lamb's quarters, and because I do like them a lot. And I consume them as much as I can. Another plant can be very weedy is purslane, another non-native. But here we have a greenhouse with raised beds, and purslane just established itself. We were growing other things. It just everywhere. So I started harvesting, and Patsy tried it, and she really liked it. So she was helping us to clean the raised beds, but also took some home. And as far as I remember, she liked them. And here, see, where it's being used not only as it is for food, it can be used also as a companion plant. It helps to protect these raised beds from losing water too fast. So it helps to protect the soil from water loss. Another plant that can be considered a weed, I have seen people and hear people saying, I don't like violets, they just want grass. But they don't realize that the flowers are edible, the leaves are edible, and also they are the source of, they're a host plant for fritillary butterflies. And another plant that is very common in yards, it comes on its own, always volunteer, is daisy fleabane. It is very attractive for pollinators, very aromatic, and it's an annual. I do pull many, but I leave some because I realize that little bees like them. And they are pretty. I use them in arrangements. When I cut them, I mix them with some foliage, and they last for more than a week in a vase. And godweed, another weed that, as the name suggests, is very abundant. It's an annual, but it can be used as a ground cover. I have grown godweed with onions, and because they stay short, they don't go beyond a foot tall, so they cover completely the ground, and any other plants are completely suffocated. They don't grow. And onions do really well with them. And they are another host plant for another butterfly. Now, these plants, I wish I could control them in our yard. They're just everywhere. I'm sure many of you know them. We call them it's called creeping Charlie. It has other names, and it can produce pretty flowers, but it can grow like everywhere. It finds its way in raised beds, in containers, everywhere. So you have to control it. But you have to at least reduce it. It's very hard to control. And another one that I like to mention is mock strawberry. Mock because it looks like a strawberry. They're related to a strawberry, but they are not sweet a strawberry. They're edible, but they don't have any flavor, and the flowers are yellow. That separates them from strawberries, either wild or introduced. They also can be completely cover the ground. And with that, there are so many other weeds that I would like to show you, but we don't have much time. So let's talk about some of the plants that we can grow in the bed that you just planted, which plants you can grow as in either containers, and also you can see, for example, lettuce can be planted with other larger plants. You can harvest lettuce while like a tomato is growing, for example. And if you see the table, we won't be able to go through everything, but I just want you to look at the information we have here. These are considered the 12 most popular crops. And there are so many that are not included here. I forgot to include in this table that the source is the handout that Dr. Gonzalez and a few of us as reviewers is preparing. And it will be in the handout when these webinars are completed. But see that we are giving information here about the seed planting depth, either indoors or outdoors, for these 12 crops. How often you have to do weed control, depending on how large your crop is. Just look at like lettuce. It has to be very often because they're pretty delicate plants and other weeds can take over. And how much watering in the case of lettuce, again, should be often. So it gives you it's just like a guide for the growing requirements of these 12 crops. So check the table if you grow these plants in your yard. And to finalize, I just want to mention some of the gardening tools. I took these from just because I like to go to Ace Hardware, but I'm not promoting Ace Hardware stores. There are many other gardening stores in either Colombia, Jeff City, and other towns. So this is just an idea for you. I'm sure that you probably have some of these tools. Like the spade, I like it because you can make deep holes. This fork, you can use it to remove the soil in small spaces. You can have a variety of trowels, like could be pointy or round, depending on the uses. And one tool that I really like to have is a garden knife. Very useful for planting, for weeding, and sometimes to cut some small shrubs. And I like these pictures because these are Sarah Evers' tools, because this is just an example of that we can become collectors, almost collectors of tools. Sometimes we just like to have them all. Sometimes they sit in the garage, but then eventually they get to be used. But these are really the most important tools to have. And this is hand tools, including some really nice gloves that this will get you started. Once you start to get your own, then you will decide which ones work better for you. And with that, I just briefly, as a summary, I like to say that it's important to plan ahead. If you use preventative methods of weed control, you will be happy that you did it. If you don't, you are gonna have maybe in the middle of summer, even abandon what you were so excited about. So think really well about controlling the weeds. Get familiar with your own crops and also the weeds. Sometimes they might look alike. And also you might already have some existing weeds in your yard that you can use for food. Know your existing vegetation. You might already have also good plants for pollinators. And one thing that I like to mention, it not that it wasn't in my presentation, but it is important to know, learn about invasive species. Examples like bush and Japanese honeysuckle, once they are in your yard, they're there to stay. And it is very hard to control. Those are the only cases when I've been using herbicides. And the birds will bring them. So just be familiar that you get used to it. And with that, I'm just gonna finish my presentation and remind you that next webinar will be on June 25. And Dr. Clementa Consen-Mensah will be talking about integrated pest management. And these are some references that you can check. I use these for my presentation. And there are some other resources. I like some of these books, like City Farmer is a nice book to read for a beginner farmer, as well as Micro Eco Farming. And even some deer-resistant landscaping. If you have problems with deer, you might learn by reading these books. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nadia.
Alan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, it was the lady that was the gardener, I think in Colombia. There was one of her containers, I think maybe it was like on her porch. She had a bottle in there, and I was wondering what she might use that for.
I really don't know. I think you where I was showing that she was showing the potatoes.
It might have been the slide after the potatoes.
Okay, the slide after the potatoes. I don't see any bottles. Maybe we, I need to check carefully. I don't see it. If it was water, maybe it had water, but.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking it was a water bottle, like turned upside down, maybe.
I think you're looking at something she had in the pot. It's actually not a bottle. It looks more like a trowel that looks like a bottle.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe you thought that she was watering, but no, it's a big trowel that looks like a bottle.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, I have, let's see there. Help me to see if I miss some questions, please just feel, thank you for your comments. And let's see. Anybody wants to say something, maybe share something that you're doing. Because we want to make this very interactive. We want to know what you're learning, what you would like to share. And if you would like to, actually, I would like to take the time to invite you to come to our Finca Farm at Lincoln. We can give you a tour, and we can also use volunteers. So we can give you plans and you can give us some of your time. That works.
Thank you, Nadine, for your presentation, which was very informative.
Thank you.
I have a question. Let's say your garden is at a place which is very rocky. Are there certain garden plants which can do better than others on a rocky, on rocky soil?
Well, you're talking about native plants?
No, I'm saying if your area is very rocky, are there other plants which do better than the others on that rocky patch?
If we talk about, well, there are some, usually for vegetables, you would need to add some, to amend the soil. For native plants, we have all kinds, like even we have a cactus that we can grow, and actually they produce edible fruits. And there's so many others, like purslane that you saw. If you, the plant that I talk about being weedy, that one is, it would grow in dry soil, very hot and rocky. But with vegetables, I'm not sure what would grow well in vegetables. If anybody wants to give an opinion, please feel
Not
free.
very much grows in rocks.
Yeah,
When I pull my weeds, can I put them in the compost bin?
Yes.
you need to add compost, and it's why, I mean, you saw what happened with the very muggy, I mean, it was pure mud when Eleazar was working in that soil, and they just have to get the soil with compost, because it was, nothing would grow. And one thing that an experience I had in the Woodhill in Southeast Missouri is they have sand as soil. And so there's no way that they can grow, I mean, unless they grow maybe things like watermelon would do well, because the water table is very high, so they can, at least they can reach the water. But to grow other things, they do need to amend the soil.
Most of your Missouri wildflowers grow well on a rocky slope.
But
yeah, a lot of the butterfly weeds, Asclepias, will do okay in some rocks.
And I wasn't sure if she was asking about native plants, but it's native plants are all the plants that grow in prairies would do well in dry, in sunny soil, sunny conditions.
It's our nice way of saying that vegetables don't grow very well on rocks. Go ahead and amend your soil.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and instead, if you have rock, adopt natives. So that would be a good compromise.
Eat purslane.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think you answered. I'll see what my schedule is like next week, Nadine, because definitely I would like, with my colleague, Rebecca Jennings, would like to make an appointment to come and see your garden. And I'm still interested to discuss with you the issue of the pumpkin we discussed last time. It's just that this week was extremely busy. So we'll need to actually come and see your garden. Then we can see also some of the plants that you were talking about.
Okay. And Sarah and I and Dr. Gonzalez, we all have plants that we can donate besides the natives.
Okay.
And Sarah, you have cucumber?
Yep. Yep, there's cucumbers in there.
I have a bunch of seeds.
Okay, so if maybe we can send a list of things that are available. If anybody needs plants, just let us know. And we'll
Nadia, I wanted to ask you a few things. One thing is like, is it possible for you all to make like a document putting what kind of things are good companions for others? I know you had a few during the presentation, but I was wondering if you all could put up something more with that and share it. And another thing, like to volunteer, is always somebody there, or before we go we need to let you know we're coming? How many days ahead do you need? Or
yeah, I would prefer that you make arrangements with me in the case of the finca, and also we have a native plant outdoor lab where we organize groups of volunteers. Okay. But we do have to be there. I have a lady that works with me, whose name is Sue, and we can do I mean, you can, we have to give you the choice of what you'd like to do. And we don't have to be there, but it would have to be during the week.
Okay.
Regarding to the information you want, we have that information on the Garden Entrepreneurship Guide. So you will get that information too. There are many crops that we put together as companion plants and also as plants that repel others.
That's great. Are you going to be sending that this week? Are you sharing that with us this week?
I can share with you part of that because it's not finished yet.
Oh, okay.
It is in editing.
Yeah, and some of your references might help with that too. If they, I mean, you can check the references that I included in my presentation. They have some information about that.
Is that, Nadia, when you share in your presentation, do you have that document instead of us having to, you know, write it out?
Yeah, I'm gonna send the copy of my presentation from last year and this year. I mean, I'm sorry, yes, last week and this week. I'm a little tired. Sorry. So yes, we'll share that information.
Okay, but I don't mean like the video, but I mean the document where you can click on the document and it takes you to the website. Yeah.
I don't mind to share. Yeah, sure.
I'm going to post some things in the chat box, and I'm going to take some of them directly from the garden guide in just a second. So if you want to look at the chat box, there'll be some links to companion planting, most of which I took from the Garden Entrepreneur Guide that you'll receive as soon as its printing is completed. Okay, so bear with me and I'll put that in the chat box for you.
Yeah, and I found a nice, well, there's so much information in the websites, and I also, it's good, I mean, I recommend only to use sources like the one that Sarah just put, that is usually universities or the university extension. Those are good resources, and it could be from any state. They would usually apply in many states.
Good. One more questions in the room?
Just want to know, if I want to meet with you, do I write you a email and to see when we can meet for the plan?
You do, Eleazar.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh.
You're talking to
Yeah,
me.
should I, I mean, who?
Oh, just send us an email. You have our emails.
Yes, yes, okay.
Yeah, so let's make anybody is welcome to send emails or call me. I can give you my cell phone number.
Do you have a garden right now, Marcia?
Not yet. I have a garden, but not garden. I have a yard, but I haven't done any.
What we can do is, I live in Colombia too, and you want to start a garden, we can include you in the program, and you just need to complete all the other webinars and provide evaluations, and we will make you part of the program by a person who will receive the benefit of building the garden. Well, we do the tilling, and you want a garden like the ones you saw from Veronica and from Sandra, you only need to buy the wood, and I will put the wood and make the design and put it together for you.
Oh, that would be excellent. Okay.
Eliasa, so are you saying you can cover also Columbia? Because like under, you know, Catholic Charities, we cover both Cole County in Jefferson City and in Boone County. So if we have clients in Columbia who would like to, where we can establish some of the gardens or they like assistance, can you work with them in Columbia?
Yeah, we had a limited number to do, and some people who who we have them on the list. They didn't show in the webinars. So we are trying to complement this list with people who are taking the webinars and they know what they are doing with it.
No. Because for Colombia here, and our colleagues I work with, I think I've got 2 of my colleagues in Colombia I work with. So in case they would like support, like Annabelle who has left and JW who is there. So, but they are coming in through, my invitation and support from Catholic Charities. So initially I wasn't aware that you can also cover Colombia. So that would be great if we can manage to get you, because if we can start with those who have been attending this webinar, it means maybe next round you have more people from that community who can also join in.
Yeah, and we both live in Colombia, so it's easy for us. It's why, I mean, it's just easier.
Okay.
Either way, we travel, so no problem. And also, if you need I mean, we have so many plants right now. So there are places like, I mean, plants like elderberry we have available. So we can share something like that too.
Okay. So in Colombia here, do you have gardens we can look at?
My own garden.
Okay.
You're talking about
Yeah, let's link up because I live in Colombia. Our main office is in Jefferson City, but we also have offices here in Colombia. So for me, like most of my other time, I'm here in Colombia. So it's good to know. And I was thinking even Eliezer, I don't know whether you are planning or at some point in time you're going to give us a list of the participants, because one of the things which I find very useful is networking. So like if there are some who don't mind after this course is over for us to continue networking, it could be by email or even just sharing what individuals will be doing in their gardens.
Well, we will share, we are collecting data about how people respond to the webinars and respond to the surveys. Well, personal information from people, we cannot share that. It's kind of, we need to ask permission for that.
Yeah, not like the emails, just the emails, so that because as we are asking questions, we may be able to identify people who have interest in one area. Then even after we are done, we can continue networking by email.
Yeah, we can ask them that to see to what extent they want to share their personal.
Yeah, so like anybody who was doing this can, if you all are interested, you can just let Eleazar know, and then he can share that. Otherwise, you know, it's totally voluntary. So that might be something, Judith, you and Eleazar can talk about, you know, outside of the presentation.
Okay.
I wanted to know, like, because, you know, I am planting late. I have some plants already that have grown, but what should I not bother with? Like it's too late right now. Like, for example, I like to plant some potatoes, you know, things that really have a lot, and you know, tomatoes and things like that. But is there anything that you could tell me it's just too late, don't even try at this time?
All the leafy vegetables they're usually, it's better to plant them early in the spring, and I'm sure many others here like Eleazar and Sarah might give some ideas, but it's usually for the summer it's better to plant like things like tomatoes, peppers,
okay, cucumbers,
like squash and all the related plants or relatives.
You can do okra. You can try a crop of green beans.
Okay.
And then in another month, if you're patient, go ahead and try seeding. Maybe start indoors some broccoli and cauliflower, and you could try to do a fall crop of broccoli and cauliflower, and then the leafy greens. You can sometimes, if you start them when the temperature starts to drop at night again in August, when the temperature starts to go down after dark, go ahead and try to reseed some of the lettuce and the spinach for a fall crop.
Okay. You know, I began with cauliflower and broccoli, and I have a little plant going. I mean, I put it in little cups. Then you're saying right now this is not a good time?
grow them if you can and just see if you can stick them out. It never hurts. Never kill a plant. Always give it a chance to live.
Okay.
Yeah, and also when Jessica talked about even in your package, she would say how late or how early you can plant a vegetable.
Yep.
And like one thing that I like to grow is carrots in the fall too. You start growing them in the fall, and I mean in August, and in the fall they will be producing. So it just depends on what you like to grow. Just for everybody, anybody has any question regarding what we're discussing, just send us emails or call us. I don't mind if you call me. If I can help, I will, or I can help you to find the answer.
But for potatoes, it's too late.
Don't say that to me. I don't want to hear that.
And sweet potatoes. You can plant sweet potatoes.
Can I plant sweet potatoes? Okay. And then when do you plant potatoes then?
What was the question?
When is a good time to plant potatoes then?
It's early. I don't know how late.
Early in March. Like, they go with the soil temperature, the potato to go out the ground. And yeah, that there are some varieties you will maybe able to grow because they are adapted. They need to be hybrids.
Then it's just a once a year deal. March. That's it.
For potatoes, yes.
For potatoes. Okay.
March,
but then you say,
April.
Sweet potatoes is okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty. They like heat,
Okay.
and like something different, like garlic. You have to plant it the year before. So sometimes it's why it's really it's important to learn what you like to grow, and then you can plan ahead.
Okay.
Good. Well, it is 6:31 now. We thank you for attending the webinar. We appreciate your support and your feedback to the surveys. And we are looking forward for next week with Dr. Clement. We will be talking about agroecological pest control and natural methods to control pests. Thank you and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you for sharing that in the chat.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great information.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Great presentation, Nadia. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
you. Bye-bye.